Your bank can freeze every dollar you own because you deposited $10,001. Not 10, 1, not 15,000, 10,001. That's the line where your money stops being yours and starts being a federal investigation. And here's what makes this really crazy. It works the same whether you're depositing cash from selling your car or a paycheck your employer already taxed. The bank doesn't care. The government doesn't care. That number trips a wire. Suddenly, you're explaining to a compliance officer why you have money. This happens to 400,000 Americans every year. Most of them did nothing. They just crossed a threshold nobody explained to them. Once that account freezes, you're not buying groceries. You're not paying rent. You're sitting in a bank branch with a folder of documents proving you earned money legally. The magic number is $10,000 in cash deposits, not wire transfers, not checks from your employer, cash. But here's where the system gets really complicated. The bank doesn't just flag 10,001, they flag 9,802, 7,000, sometimes three separate deposits of 4,000 over 2 weeks. You're getting investigated either way. Let me tell you about Marcus, a guy in Ohio who sold his truck for $11,000 cash. The buyer wanted to pay cash. Marcus wanted to sell the truck. Seemed simple. He walked into his Chase branch on a Tuesday morning, deposited $11,000. The teller took the cash, gave him a receipt, and filed a report with the government. That's automatic. That's the law. Marcus went home. Wednesday, his account was frozen. Not restricted, frozen. Zero access. He called the bank. They told him they were checking some things and they couldn't discuss specifics. He asked how long. They said they'd send a letter. The letter came 8 days later, requesting proof of where the $11,000 came from. He provided the truck title, the bill of sale, photos of the truck. The bank unfroze his account 19 days after the deposit. 19 days where he couldn't pay his mortgage. The teller who took Marcus's deposit could have warned him. Most don't. Some banks specifically train tellers not to mention the reporting requirement because if you know it and then you adjust your deposit, that looks suspicious. This isn't a glitch. This is the law. The law requires banks to report transactions over $10,000. What counts as suspicious? It's subjective. Your bank has a team that watches for patterns that might indicate money laundering or terrorist financing. Their pattern matching is really aggressive because the penalties for missing actual criminal activity are huge. The threshold hasn't changed since 1970. $10,000 in 1970 is worth a lot more today. So inflation has turned what used to be a flag for criminal activity into a flag for normal life. And here's what actually happens when you get flagged. The bank files a report automatically. You don't know about it. If anything looks off, they flag it to the bank. The bank then freezes your account pending review. This can take days. During this freeze, checks bounce, auto pays fail. Your credit score can drop if bills go unpaid. You have almost no resource. Now let's talk about structuring because this is where people accidentally commit crimes. Let's say you know about the $10,000 threshold. You've got a lot of cash. You think, I'll just deposit some today and some next week. That's structuring. That's illegal. The law says you can't break up transactions to avoid reporting requirements. The penalty is really severe. There was a woman in North Carolina who ran a restaurant. She deposited cash from her register every week, just under $10,000. She wasn't hiding income, she wasn't laundering money, she just wanted to avoid paperwork. The IRS seized a lot of money from her account. It took her pay time and a lawyer to get most of it back. This is the government system that lets rich people hide money, but it hammers small business owners. So, what do you actually do if you have a cash deposit? You deposit it all at once. You bring documentation, you tell the teller where it came from, you accept that report will be filed. The problem is most people don't know this. They panic, they split the deposit. The panic is what gets them investigated. And here's what the banks won't tell you: the threshold for activity is way lower than 10,000. Banks file reports for anything they consider unusual. It's a catch. The system assumes trying to stay off the radar makes you guilty. Once a report is filed, you'll never know. It's illegal for the bank to tell you. They file it with the government. It goes into your financial record, and you have no right to see it or dispute it. This gets even worse if you're self employed or run a cash business. If you deposit cash regularly, you're under silent scrutiny. So here's the actual playable strategy: avoid cash whenever possible. If you're selling something, take a check or a bank transfer. If you absolutely must accept cash, deposit it immediately, all at once, with documentation. If your account does get frozen, do not panic and do not argue with the teller. Ask for the compliance department. Ask what documentation they need. Provide it quickly in writing. The dark part of the system is it hits poor people hardest. If you're living paycheck to paycheck and your account freezes, you miss rent. You overdraft on accounts trying to cover bills. You pay fees. Meanwhile, someone with a lot of money just shifts money around and waits it out. The penalty for being flagged scales with how broke you are. There's no change coming. Both parties support financial monitoring. The argument is always terrorism and drug cartels. The data shows the system catches mostly regular people making big one time transactions. The actual criminals use shell companies and international wire networks that don't touch banks. This whole system is for show. It costs you access to your own money. One thing: if you're about to make a large purchase and you know you'll need to pull cash or make big transfers, warn your bank a day ahead. Call them. Tell them you're buying a car or closing on a house. Get a note in your account file. It won't prevent all flags, it helps. Banks are a bit less suspicious of transactions they know about than surprise ones. The system won't change, the limits won't go away. Your best move is to know the rules, follow them exactly, and keep records of everything. Treat your bank like it's the IRS because that's what it is. Every deposit is a risk, every withdrawal is logged. The line between normal financial activity and federal investigation is $10,001 in cash. If this helped you avoid an account and a month of stress, subscribe. We're the channel that'll tell you the dollar amount that ruins your week.